Welcome to the Second Amendment Foundation Personal Firearm Defense DVD series. If you own a gun and are willing to use it to protect yourself or those you care about, then this DVD collection is as important to you as your gun itself. You'll discover the difference between shooting at paper targets and using your weapon to defend yourself against a lethal threat in a real-life situation. Your instructor is Rob Pincus, Director of Operations at the Valhalla Training Center in Colorado, one of the most highly progressive close-quarters tactical facilities in the world. Each DVD in this reality-based series is an intense training session. Throughout the series, you'll witness the many aspects of personal defense with a firearm in the environments and situations in which you're likely to experience the need to react to a threat. At Valhalla, Rob trains military personnel, SWAT teams, police, private security personnel, housewives, and people like you. By using the skills and tactics you'll discover in the Second Amendment Foundation Personal Firearm Defense DVD series, you'll feel confident in protecting yourself and your loved ones at all times. In this edition, Rob begins our training in the square range at Valhalla. Regardless of how much you shoot or where you shoot, you're going to learn the skills you need to significantly affect a target's ability to present a lethal threat to you or anyone you're trying to protect. You'll discover one of the most important skills you need to react effectively in a lethal situation: combat accuracy. You'll also learn the proper tactics for reacting to a threat in order to improve your chances of survival, including the critical balance between speed and precision. And after the drills and training sessions, you'll go through Valhalla's 360-degree realistic environments, engaging lethal threats with live ammunition. Now let's get started with this edition of the Second Amendment Foundation Personal Firearm Defense DVD series. The group joins Rob for his explanation and demonstration of the 3 safety rules.
We'll talk a little bit about our 3 safety rules before we get started with the live fire exercises. Whenever we have a weapon under our control, what we want to make sure we're doing is being safe and being very careful about what we're doing with it. We need an objective set of standards so that everybody can look around the room and know that everybody's being safe, or at least know if someone's not being safe and if there's a violation of those safety rules. So to get everybody on the same page, we're going to talk about our 3 safety rules. Safety rule number 1 is to keep your trigger finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot. So what I want to do is make sure we understand what finger off the trigger really means. Now clearly, this gun is locked back. Administratively, it's been checked as open. The chamber is clear. There is no magazine inserted. And I've checked with my training partner, Mike, to make sure that we're 100% clear. Finger off the trigger means all the way up on the frame. For a right-handed shooter, we don't want to be able to look from the left side and see the trigger finger anywhere down in this area. Okay, that's too close. We want to keep it all the way up, keep it up on the frame clearly where it's out of the way. That's until we're ready to shoot. Ready to shoot means we're on a range. It's been designated for live fire. We have a target that's been identified and the command to fire has been issued by an instructor, or you've been given the option of finding a target in our 360-degree maze, for instance, and engaging appropriately when you've seen it. You will be ready to shoot at that point. When you've identified a target, extended towards it, you're then going to be ready to shoot. You're going to move your finger to the trigger, touch, and then press. You will move your finger back to the frame as you come back into the ready position to assess and look for more targets. That's the drill for safety rule number 1. Safety rule number 2 I've also been demonstrating, and that's to keep the weapon pointed in a generally safe direction at all times. When the weapon is pointed in a generally safe direction, it means that no one is likely to get hurt if the weapon goes off, whether negligently or on purpose. Generally speaking, down in front of you at the floor is going to be your generally safe direction. Of course, if there were people lying down, if you were moving down a set of stairs, that may not be it. So objectively, the rule is weapon pointed in a generally safe direction at all times. Again, this includes when you're going to shoot. In a training environment, this is a steel wall. We've identified it as a generally safe direction. There's a target up there we identify. We extend. The weapon is still pointed in a generally safe direction. Touch, press, bring the gun back in, depress the muzzle, and this allows us to then move around and assess and look for other potential threats that we might need to engage. Safety rule number 3 is what we call the big picture rule. The big picture rule is there to remind us that this is a weapon which, if used negligently or maliciously, could hurt or kill you or someone else. This third rule we have in there as the big picture rule because sometimes people get so worried about one small detail of what they're doing, or they get excited about something and they forget one or more of the rules. For example, if you're so worried about your finger being off the trigger that you turn the gun to look and see, now the gun may be pointed in an unsafe direction. If you're worried about your thumbs being crossed in terms of having a good 360-degree contact grip, and while you're trying to figure that out, you've forgotten rule number 1 and left your finger on the trigger, we could again have a negligent discharge which could cause someone to get hurt. We use only frangible, non-toxic ammunition here on our ranges so that we can be reasonably sure that no rounds are going to come off one of these steel targets at an angle that we haven't accounted for. That we don't have to worry about rounds coming back towards the shooter or coming back towards some of our sensitive equipment or computer lighting and things like that. Of course, safety is first, and that's why the generally safe direction is going to be towards those target stops, even though if these were traditional lead rounds, these directions and angles may not be safe. It's important that you only train under close supervision in approved training areas in the ways that the ranges you're training on were designed to be used. Traditionally, in a target environment, shooters will shoot at a much greater distance than the average critical incident that they're likely to need to use a firearm for defense of themselves or others in. So what we want to do is get used to shooting in that close environment because, again, it's going to help your pacing. If you shoot traditionally in your training environment at a longer distance, the balance of speed and precision requires you to slow down in order to get the effectiveness that you want. We talked earlier about what we're trying to accomplish with combat accuracy, a shot that significantly affects the target's ability to present a lethal threat. Well, if we assume that a shot in the high center chest will significantly affect the target's ability to present a lethal threat, we obviously want to be able to get multiple shots there as quickly and efficiently as we can until the threat has stopped. That's going to be our goal. If we always shoot at 20, 15, 30 feet in that range, but our critical incidences are likely to be within 10 feet, we're going to shoot at a pace that is slower than that with which we can actually achieve the hits at that close distance. So for a behavioral reason, for consistency reasons, for reasons of comfort and confidence with our ability to shoot and place rounds effectively in the area we want to practice at those realistic environments, in realistic situations. And I want you to come right up here to where you're going to be about 6-7 feet away from the targets. We're going to maintain the same exact objective definition of what combat accuracy is. So any round inside of that center circle on these cardboard targets is going to be considered effective. Okay? That's what we want. That's our goal. Objectively, we're going into this saying a shot here is the same as a shot here, is the same as a shot here. Okay? 6 shots right there in 6 seconds is probably shooting too slow, even though that seems fast and seems like great shooting. Okay, if we can get those same 6 shots anywhere in the circle in 4 seconds, that's even better. All right, because that's 2 seconds this guy doesn't have to try to kill us. All right, that's what we're trying to stop. Stop him as fast as we can. Everyone grip your firearm. Go to the ready position. Make hot if you need to. Return to the ready position. Remember the fundamentals. Good grip. Thumbs not crossed, holding the gun as high as we can. Stand by. Your command to fire will be up 2 to 3 rounds. I want you to get out of whatever pattern you may have established. Okay, don't shoot 2 and assess. Don't shoot 1 and then 2 quickly. Okay, I want you to shoot 2 or 3 rounds as efficiently as you can into the high center chest of the silhouette and then assess. Okay, if you're shot 2 rounds every time, start shooting 3. If you shot 3 rounds every time, start shooting 2. Mix it up. Picture a threat. When I say up, it's not, oh, I've got to shoot. It's, I'm under a lethal threat. Okay? That's what I want you to envision. Envision that lethal threat. When you fired your 2 or 3 rounds, that threat has stopped. And you want to immediately go back to the ready position and assess your environment. Up! Sidestep on those reloads, Rock. Up! Up! The gun should be moving minimally. Get your weight forward. Do not let the fact that we're close to the target break down your fundamentals. So we've talked about consistency and how important consistency is. Of course, the fundamentals of grip and stance are part of how we establish consistency. Now, when you're in a dynamic critical incident in a real world situation, you may or may not. You may be up on a ramp, you may be behind something, you may be on a stairwell. But as much as we can, we want to work with what the body does naturally. What the body does naturally is get us into a crouch and get our weight forward and our hands come up to protect us. Well, that's great. Once we've recognized the threat and got into that crouch and our weight is forward, we've decided to use a firearm. Now we're going to get our hands back out where we want it to be with our weight forward in a good 360-degree grip, fully supported weight forward. You know, the thing about shooting a firearm, if you're lining the sights up and you're just taking one shot, you can do it a lot of different ways. You could literally hold the gun upside down, shoot with your pinky. You could just be sloppy with your elbow bent, just kind of the gun canted sideways or something like that, or very loose, supported. The problem is if we want to take those tight follow-up shots, that won't work because the gun's going to have too much movement and too many variables. So we want to make sure we have that good, tight 360-degree grip with our thumbs layered and not crossed. We're in the ready position or we're coming from the holster, and as we do and we've crouched and we've got our weight forward, we bring that gun up and extend out fully so that when we shoot, our rounds stay very close together because everything's tight, fully extended and locked out. If, on the other hand, as we extend, and too often we do this in training, whereas in a real critical incident, our body's going to put us in this situation and we're going to work with that crouch and forward posture. In training, if we're always like this and standing up and, well, it's just paper and I'm just trying to hit the center, that first shot may go in there, but what tends to happen is when our weight's back on our heels, the gun will move much more and spread that out. And you can see that vertical climb is typical of someone with their weight back as the gun pushes back on their body and their weight is not forward. Similarly, as we're coming from the holster, what happens all too often under critical stress, if we don't have a really tight extension parallel with our line of sight, if instead we pull the gun and we sweep it up, or we come out here and swing up, the gun may not go off exactly when we want it to, when it's in that perfect spot. So by establishing, coming to the ready position, extending straight out, we have a much greater chance of hitting the center of that target. Let's take a look at the 6. And if we think about coming out early and sweeping the gun, that round went clear off the paper. Even though the gun's heading towards locking in the center of the 6, I shot too early as the gun was here. Not very far, but because I wasn't extending parallel with my line of sight through that ready position, the round didn't even hit the paper. Okay, similarly, same thing can happen if we come here through the ready position and there we are off to the side. Because again, we're not fully extending that right arm. That looks good, feels good. If we were lining the sights up and taking that extra time, we could shoot with bent elbows all day. The problem is under critical incident stress, we're not going to have that cognitive ability, especially not at the beginning of that incident. So we want to lock that gun straight out, those shots quickly and rapidly into the box we're looking at. And accepting the fact that from the holster, particularly from concealment, or even from the ready position, we have a delay between our recognition of the fact that we're under a lethal attack and we need to use lethal force to stop it, and our ability to actually present that lethal force, in other words, get the shots that are combat accurate, there's a delay. What we can do immediately to start improving our chances of survival and to significantly affect that target's ability to present a lethal threat, once we've recognized it, is to move laterally relative to that target, to move offline. Particularly if we're startled, we respond to the target, and we've got to go to a holster, we're going to have a lot of time to change our position before we can actually engage the target. So we want to start working that into our training. Okay? Shooting in a realistic environment means taking maximum advantage of that environment. We talked a lot about lateral movement relative to the target. It's important that we see a live demonstration of exactly what that means and how it really helps you. Obviously, from a presentation, whether you're in the ready or you're obviously going to be more likely to be from a holster, there's a delay between the time you recognize a threat to the time that you can respond appropriately and efficiently to get those combat accurate hits. One of the things we can do during that lag time between recognition and response is to move laterally relative to the target to make it harder for that other person with the firearm to hit us. If, for instance, I were to walk into my kitchen and find a home intruder with a firearm pointed at me, and all I were to do were orient towards the threat, draw, and shoot, that person has all this time to shoot at me while I'm doing that. Instead, what I want to do is recognize the attack. Obviously, the gun's pointed out at me as I recognize it. Now, at this point, if I move laterally as I draw and extend, it's much harder for that person to hit me. When we draw and extend towards a target and then try to track laterally, we have that momentum, and it's much harder to get on target than it is if we were to identify and extend out. So by pointing the gun out at you, that home intruder has already chosen to engage. The best thing and the most important thing that you can do while responding with your firearm is to do that recognition of the attack and then lateral movement as you respond, causing him to have to shift his point of aim to the left or right. So we're going to be in the ready position. I'm going to give you your command to fire. You're going to recognize your threat, which is going to be the target in front of you. You're going to realize that what you need to do is to get multiple hits in that high center chest area to stop the threat. While we're doing that, we're going to move. So on the recognition, you're going to now start sidestepping. Okay, we're in close quarters. This is a new skill. We're moving to another level. For safety's sake, we're going to alternate left and right. First time you're going to go right, second time you're going to go left, you're going to move as a group. So your command to fire will be up. You'll recognize your attack, move to the right, take your shots. Okay? We'll be here, up, come back into the ready position, stand by. The next command to fire, up. We're going to move as we present. We should be planted a full body width offline, significantly affecting that target's ability to present a lethal threat before we engage. Weapons loaded. Got holster. Everyone back up on the line. Grip your firearm and go to the ready position. Muzzle depressed, high at your chest. Stand by for your command to fire. You're going to sidestep to the right. Is everybody hot? Stand by. Up. So we've talked about the balance between speed and precision. This drill will help us to really quantify that, to let you understand what your personal balance between speed and precision is. All shooting is a balance between speed and precision. Okay, we have to shoot slowly enough in order to get the hit we need to get. Okay, even if you're just shooting for bragging rights out at the range, people aren't going to wait for you to, take 6 hours to fire a 6-shot string. Okay, you've still got some level of expectation of a time limit in order to get those shots. When you're in a critical incident and someone's trying to kill you or someone you care about, that time limit becomes as fast as you can. That's efficiently. Okay, as fast as you are confident that you can get the hit you need to get, that high center chest. The targets behind me have colored shapes with numbers in it. What we're going to do is call out numbers. All of a sudden, your target area is going to be less predictable than it was before. Now certainly, okay, this is your target area. You're going to be in the ready position. It's still a rather sterile, controlled drill. But there is going to be a little deviation into what your actual target is. As you're sidestepping and recognizing that target, you're going to punch the gun straight out into your line of sight, parallel to that threat. If I call 3, 3 is your threat. 4, 4 is your threat. We're going to be looking, at the end of this drill, at the balance between speed and precision. Your precision need is going to remain constant. Something else is actually going to change in the middle of the drill. When that changes, it may change the speed with which you can attain that group. Okay, that's what we're going to work on now, is how the distance or the relative size of a target affects our speed. Nothing changes about what objectively we want to accomplish. We want to get the shots in the colors. We want the holes to be in the colors or very close proximity to the color. Okay, that's our goal. How fast you can do that is what we're going to be looking at. You decide through empirical evidence how fast you can get that shot. Make sure you're at full extension, good consistent position, focused on the threat that I call. We're going to continue to sidestep on presentation. We're going to continue to sidestep on our reload to significantly affect the target's ability to present a lethal threat using our environment. We're going to use our tool, the firearm, in our training to get those combat accurate hits. All right? Eyes and ears. Grip your firearm and go to the ready position. Make hot if you need to in the ready position. Stand by. 2 or 3 rounds, 2 or 3 rounds at the number, the shape that contains the number that I call as your threat, sidestepping to the right first. Stand by. 5. If you're significantly out of the color, slow down. If your shots are in the same hole, speed up. Use the maximum area for combat effectiveness that we'd identified. 3. Holster. We're going to look at the balance between speed and precision using one of these SEB targets. It gives us multiple target areas of different sizes. The other nice thing about this drill that you can do with your training partner to learn your balance between speed and precision without needing to increase your distance or change anything dramatically is that the up commands, or the standard firing command that gets you into that high center chest area, the box on the SEB, is going to be much more predictable and obviously behaviorally more expected than the number call. Your training partner also has the option of calling a number, which is inside of a shape on the target, which is going to cause a deviation in that standard presentation. Just that little bit of change is going to obviously require a longer duration of presentation because you have to find and acquire the target. It's not coming straight out into the center mass of that bowling pin. So for a couple of different reasons, both the smaller target area and the less predictable nature of the target area, it's going to require a more precise shot, which means our speed is not going to be as attainable as it is when we have that larger surface area to get 2 or 3 shots into to significantly affect the target's ability to present a lethal threat. So the drill is, on a standard command, which we'll use up, 2 or 3 rounds will be fired into the high center chest, attempting to significantly affect the target's ability to present a lethal threat. On a number call, we're going to fire 1 round into the smaller target area, and we're going to look at the difference between the speed with which we can attain those rapid shots into the large area versus the precise shot into the small area. Mike's going to call for me. I'll be standing by in a nonviolent posture. Up. 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 2. Up. 3. So you can see there, what I did was rush that shot and try to take it at exactly the same amount of time that I was taking that center mass shot, which is a much larger target area. And while that shot would have been within the large box, it's clearly not within that smaller surface area. That's what happens when you don't respect the balance between speed and precision. Remember, objectively, the area we want to hit, high center chest, doesn't change. Just because you're 30 feet away or 40 feet away or 50 feet away, maybe you shouldn't be shooting a pistol. You can't say, well, gee, I hit 1 out of 10 shots. That's okay. That's not acceptable. Okay? Whatever your level of acceptable consistency was when you were at this 8-10 foot range is exactly the same level of consistency and combat accuracy you should be satisfied with at that 20 foot range. What does that mean? It means you have to slow down. It means you have to concentrate more. It means you have to be more consistent in your fundamentals, smoother in your trigger pull, more determined in your extension, weight forward, controlling that gun, especially for the follow-up shots. Because it's not acceptable to be able to come into a target area. Let me find a target that exemplifies Okay, this is perfect. Look at this. Good hits on the 5, good hits on the 3, good hits on the 2. Then all of a sudden we went back to 20 feet. We have no hits on the 6, no hits on the 4. Okay, too fast. We're just shooting too fast here. We're capable of being combat accurate, but we went too fast and we weren't able to do it. Okay. Similarly, we can look at a target like this. Look at this big tight group here on the 5, great tight group on the 1, great tight group on the 2, great tight group on the 3. Then we look at the 6 and the 4, and what do we see? We see combat accurate groups. Okay, these are acceptable groups. So apparently we were shooting too slow when we were in here. Okay, so it works both ways. This drill will allow you to look at your balance between speed and precision. If this is an acceptable group size, and you can do this at 20 feet, you should be able to shoot much, much faster at 5. So it's possible that this was a pacing issue. We shot exactly the same way, but when we expanded our distance, it expanded our group. Okay, so we want to pick up the pace here and shoot even faster to take maximum advantage of that combat accurate area. Because this is a great drill you can take home, do this on a square range anywhere to help you balance speed and precision, be able to determine whether or not you can shoot as fast as you want to and figure out your pacing at any given distance so that you're aware of it and that you will then recognize the pacing with which you need to shoot given a target size or a distance or a dynamic environment reality. Go ahead and grab your mags, let's reload. Talk a little bit about reloads and the reload drill that we recommend for several reasons, including consistency. We'll have everybody move down to my left. When we encounter a slide lock situation in the middle of a dynamic critical incident, we're going to want to get the gun back in operation as quickly as we can. This is our worst case scenario. Okay, this isn't just deciding to reload. This isn't we're reloading for the next shooting drill. This is we're in the middle of someone trying to hurt us or someone we care about, and now we want to be able to respond with lethal force, but our gun has run out, and we have a spare magazine. Okay, the situation we're going to be in is that we've recognized a threat, we've drawn our firearm, we've presented, we've taken a shot, taken multiple shots, whatever situation has gotten us to that now the gun is locked back. We've reached slide lock in the middle of a critical incident. We're going to take our left hand off the gun immediately, do what we need to do to get our right thumb in line with the magazine release, drop that magazine as the gun comes back to the ready position. We're going to reach back down as we're moving offline and continuing that movement to our spare magazine and get it up to the magazine well. Now I know a lot of you traditionally will carry your extra magazines with the bullets facing forward. That's fine. You want to be consistent. If that's the way you've trained for 15, 5, 10 weeks, years, months, whatever it is, stay that way. Okay, your elbow is going to be a little further out from your body. As the magazine comes out, you're going to flip it up into the gun. Okay, what I do personally is keep that magazine with the bullets pointed backwards. As the magazine comes up, your elbow's closer to the body, the magazine rotates into the gun. We reach up and over, grab the back of the slide, and go into the ready position to assess whether or not we still need to shoot. Okay, in that position, we're very strong. We have a lot of coordination. We also have retention for the weapon in case we're in a crowd or a crowded situation where someone's trying to come after the gun while we're reloading. Maybe it's the threat getting closer. Maybe it's somebody else who's trying to help the threat or doesn't understand what's going on. We want to keep that gun in close and not have it floating around out here. We certainly don't want to be putting it up here and pointing it in a bunch of different directions so that once we get it loaded, now our presentation is inconsistent. Once the gun's loaded, we want it to be consistent with the presentation we have from in close. So again, we've shot, we're at slide lock, hand comes off the gun, we change our position, we come up. If we need to shoot right away, as we grab the slide, we can actually pull the gun out, extend, take that shot, one-handed, if we need to shoot that fast. Okay? There's nothing wrong with that if we're in the middle of a dynamic critical incident. Questions about that? Outstanding. Everybody back online? Mike, your weapon is loaded. Remember, when you are out of rounds, we want to still present a plausible threat. I want you to rack the slide, get the gun back into battery, and you're presenting a plausible threat. You've got to drop the empty magazine. That's part of the drill. The empty magazine should be dropped every time you reach slide lock. Up! If you've made the decision to have a firearm in your life or in your home, you've got to be able to shoot in a realistic environment. If all of your shooting is done up against a dirt berm or on a square range where all of your targets are kind of in a 90-degree area, you can become a good shooter. But shooting in a realistic environment requires an awareness and a recognition of things like these obstacles. You've got to be able to recognize an attack in a realistic environment. You've got to be able to be aware of where threats could be. So again, inside the car, in front of the car, in the dumpster, next to the dumpster. The idea that you're going to be able to instantly get that snapshot and decide, is it the person coming at me to punch me in the head? Is it the person that's shooting at me over here, or this person hiding behind the bush that's shooting at me that I should deal with first, is a bit of a fallacy. Okay, we can't expect to be superhuman and process all this information at once. What we have to do is be willing to work with what our body does naturally in a realistic environment. It's not realistic to think that this person coming out of the corner of our eye from behind the park is going to get an equal amount of attention as the person right in front of us with a knife. The brain is only going to process that first threat and then direct its energy and start working with your body to naturally solve that problem. As your cognitive process comes in, you're going to start to use your training and your tools, i.e. the firearm, to address that threat if it's a lethal one. So here I am walking out of the park, I'm going to my car, and this person comes running at me with a bat. So all of a sudden I lose my peripheral vision, I have auditory exclusion, I orient towards the threat, my hands want to come up to protect me from that threat, and that's where my focus is. I've got to deal with that threat, come back to the ready position, and then assess to determine where those other threats are. And if there is one, then move laterally relative to it and engage it. This is working with what the body does naturally. This is dealing with critical incident with multiple threats in a realistic situation. Here in the scenario room, let's take a look at why we would present a firearm to defend ourselves. We need to have an articulable idea of why it is we're using this firearm. Whether it's in the real world or in training, we should be envisioning that. We certainly should know why. We shouldn't be randomly drawing a firearm and shooting at something just because we're in a gun range. There should always be some kind of impetus in your mind as to why you need to defend yourself. Let's take a look at Alex on the left and Tom on the right. Alex has a knife. That's an articulable threat. If he makes motions or intentions or voices the fact that he wants to come after me and move towards me, it's pretty clear at this point that I'm going to need to do something to defend myself. That thing maybe run away, that thing maybe draw a firearm and respond with a lethal threat that is appropriate at this time to significantly affect his ability to hurt me. Now, if he puts that knife away and we forget that it exists, he goes back to becoming just another guy in this environment. Both of them now at this point become potential threats. Certainly I wouldn't draw and shoot Tom right now, but if Tom presents a weapon, now I have got to do something. I might move laterally, draw my firearm, extend, present, and significantly affect his ability to present a lethal threat towards me. Similarly, if Alex, although unarmed, comes charging towards me, grabs me around the throat, slams me against the wall, and makes the motion as if he's going to continue to hurt me or kill me, I might be completely justified in drawing my firearm here to defend myself again from this obviously potentially lethal articulable threat. That's just a little bit to think about. Why are we shooting, not just how do we shoot. Again, why do we assess from the ready position? Because it's consistent with that presentation towards the target, consistent with that presentation from the holster. If I left my gun out here, all of a sudden I'm swinging my gun, which is very different from extending straight out. If after we shoot, we go to here and look around, now we're swinging the gun up all of a sudden. And that inertia is going to happen, right? Momentum. The gun's going to keep moving. Okay, it's not going to be consistent like locking the elbow, locking the shoulder out towards the target, leaning our weight forward. Consistency is the key to becoming efficient, okay, to staying effective quickly. Everybody come gather around this guy here. Talk for a minute about vital areas and engaging the threat, the termination of the threat. We are used to shooting straight on to either a silhouette target or even a mannequin or something where we're picturing a person who's attacking us straight on. That's great, because honestly, 9 times out of 10, that's the way it's going to be. Okay, people don't attack this way. They focus on a threat and they attack. Okay, and you're going to respond to a threat and defend. Okay, so people generally do end up squared off. But there could certainly be situations, for instance, shooting in the defense of others. Okay, if you have a situation where someone you care about is being attacked by this guy, Okay, we've got a target over here. I'm standing here. I want to protect that person. All of a sudden, my target presentation is not pectoral muscle and sternum. Okay, that's kind of what we condition ourselves to. Well, we get those shots in the sternum, right here, high center chest. Well, why do we want high center chest shots? We want high center chest shots because they are the most likely to go through and hit something vital that is going to significantly affect this target's ability to present a lethal threat. Okay? If we're over here, we just need to be cognizant of the fact, I'm going to let him lean up against that park area there, cognizant of the fact that the shot may need to go through here. Okay? If we're where Johnny is, the shot's going to go through here. If we're where Tony is, the shot's going to come through here. Where David is, it's going to come from the back. Okay? And understand 360-degree target presentation. Okay? Not just the 360-degree world we live in, but the fact that we might not be shooting at that center chest. We might have a more precise target area because someone's hiding behind cover. We might have a more smaller target area because of bystanders on either side. And the targets, now all we have is this target instead of this full frontal target. We need to be prepared for that. We need to start thinking about that. As we come through in this 360-degree shoot house or anywhere that you're able to practice in 360 degrees, you want to be aware that all of your target presentations, if they're always squared off at you, are going to potentially cause you hesitation when you have to shoot at something else. So we're going to use in our training a variety of different target presentations to be able to do that. When we are talking about the termination of a threat, how do we do that? Well, hopefully we're mentally visualizing while we're shooting, again, the onset of a threat, the recognition of a threat when the command to fire is given or when we've decided to shoot if we're training on our own, and then the recognition of that threat stopping. What we're saying is shoot until your threat goes down. And if you can work out a training model that allows you to actually have a visual stimulus of a target going down or folding back or shooting balloons, you know, balloons are great, but it only takes one shot. Bowling pins are great, but it usually only takes one shot. So if you can come up with a way to increase the variables of how many shots it's going to take to knock your threat down, to terminate your threat, to stop the attack, to allow you to recognize in a realistic way how it's going to be in a realistic environment when you really should stop shooting and start assessing. Here, what we do is put targets in a realistic environment that do respond realistically to what you're doing, which is significantly affecting their ability to present a lethal threat. So start thinking now about all the danger areas that exist, not just in this direction, but even behind you. This dark corner over here, there could be someone hiding in. The doorway directly behind you in the room it opens into. This door that goes into the bar, or the restaurant, the park, and around the corner over here, or over top of these short walls, inside the car, under the car, around the car, in the dumpster, in this door, standing right here. All of these threats are potential, all the time. That's a daunting prospect. Does it make you feel comfortable? But guess what? The world's 360 degrees, it's occasionally crowded, it's deep, and occasionally it's dark. Take this now and turn it into a night setting. Okay? Now, I can't even see anything in front of the car. I can't see into the car so well. That corner that was dark, actually now because of street lights or moonlight, becomes much more lit because it's not darker than the rest of everything we've been looking at. So it becomes easier to see. The park, again, becomes darker, but look at this guy. He's got a street light on him. I might notice him faster now. Okay? The bar. The bar in the street. What else is missing from this environment to make it less realistic? We wanted sound. We want to add sound now. Now we're going to be distracted by noises of vehicles, people yelling. We might not even hear a gunshot, depending on how loud the music is coming out of the bar. We might not hear someone scream if everyone's screaming and it's a parade and they're waving and clapping, or if we're at a concert. So all of these things are part of our environment. And if we're going to be able to shoot to defend ourselves on anything except a square range or in front of a dirt berm, we're going to need to be able to do it in a realistic environment. In this environment, you're in a true 360-degree shooting area now. Unlike what we did upstairs, what we're going to do down here is actually account for a target that may be off to our right or even behind us if you walked by it. Move towards the magazine stand. I want you to just walk casually and then around the corner to your left, assessing and looking for potential threats. Outstanding. Move forward. So you're now going to determine when you need to shoot. We go through the park. We're not hunting. We're not looking for a bad guy, because if we thought there were bad guys around the corner, we probably wouldn't go around the corner. We're just going to be moving through in an administrative ready position. Excellent. You're going to use all the same skills we've been developing on the square range to engage this threat now in an even more realistic environment. Good. Move backwards. Side step to your left. And let's go down this hallway. Excellent. Continue to move forward. We'll define a threat as anyone with a weapon pointed at yourself or going to be used to cause harm to someone else that you want to protect. Anyone you see in here with a weapon, you'll recognize as a threat, address appropriately, and move on to the next target. Okay, so all we're going to worry about is that recognition and response to the threat. Lateral movement, full extension, focusing on the target, both eyes open, touch the trigger, press the trigger, the gun will bounce, let it settle, press the trigger again. Multiple shots, 2-3 shots is a good place to start, but you want to constantly assess. I'll either tell you good, you've got the target, that's great, or the reactive targets will fall down on their own. The important thing to remember is what we're trying to do is develop your behavioral response to threat recognition. Move ahead, look for your threats, find your threats, 360-degree environment. Outstanding. Go forward, there's a hostage taker hiding behind that woman. One shot, precision. Balance your speed and precision. Outstanding. Assess your environment, see if there's any other threats. Go around the corner to the left. Okay. Now, you see where your elbow was still bent, and you had it. One shot went very low into the bottom of the target. Okay, still combat accurate. It would have significantly affected her ability to present a lethal threat. And one of your shots went very high. Okay, don't rush your shot. Okay. I want you to fully extend, get locked out. Go ahead, engage. Much better. Those two shots were both high center chest and 2 inches apart. This arm was extended, and you were locked out and focused. Perfect. Okay. Move forward. Go towards the magazine stand, and back to the left. Okay, stop. Now, why would you put your gun out there for somebody to take? Okay, remember, you're walking. You're not hunting. You're not in some dynamic combat environment. You're not trying to run through here and save the day. It's not an action movie. You're walking. Walk and react. Okay, moving towards the target only makes it easier for them to shoot you. Lateral movement is what we're looking for. Okay, move through the park. He's back. Good. You engaged the malfunction. You fixed it. Now, let's talk about your movement. Okay, your movement relative to the target was straight back. Right. That's not lateral movement. Shifting that body width one way or the other, okay, even especially if you end up in a different lighting situation or you end up behind cover, is awesome. It's very powerful. In this range, moving back a few steps is not going to help you. Right. Okay, so you want to use that lateral movement. Use your environment. Exactly. Okay, move forward. You go through that door, the black and gray door. Outstanding. Okay. Remember where your last threat was. You don't turn your back to your threat. Okay, that guy may get back up. Get your gun ready position. Okay, that guy may come back out. We don't know what's going to happen. Now we'll assess our environment from this standpoint. Okay, we're going to go through that door. Use your left hand. Keep your weapon pointing in a generally safe direction. Drop. Stop moving while you're shooting. Move when you see a target as you're presenting. You've got to get this arm locked out or you're not going to be able to get combat accurate hits. The reason a lot of your hits are going high, low is because you're just shooting too fast. Okay. Balance of speed and precision. Combat accuracy is any shot that significantly affects the target's ability to present a lethal threat. That's going to be the high center chest. Now, go back around the corner. Your target's still up in this room. Reload. There you go. That's what it took. You had to slow down and actually get good, consistent hits to knock that target down. You can't just stick the gun out there and hope to get a hit. You have to do all the right things, which means full extension, leaning forward, focusing on the target, touch the trigger, press the trigger. Doing that as fast as you can doesn't mean doing it as fast as you can without worrying what happens downrange. You've got to do it slow enough to be combat accurate. Okay, move down this hallway. Much better. Okay, that time you moved laterally to get out of the way of him trying to shoot you as opposed to charging at the target. You know, in the military and SWAT teams and things like that, we sometimes see that demonstration and then we kind of say, oh, well, gee, they're the professionals, that must be what I want to do. But the reality is, if you're going in to dominate an area and you have to move through and you've got 6 guys behind you with automatic weapons and body armor, that yeah, you have to move forward. You can't move out of the way and change the dynamic of that flow. When you're by yourself, you don't want to move forward, you want to be moving out of the way. Move forward. Into the bar, start looking for threats. Okay, stop. This is not going to do you any good if that person comes running around the corner, okay, tucking into this corner like that. What we want to do is be back here. Okay, if you're going to move laterally relative to that target, that's fine. Okay, get in the ready position. Stay in. There's only 2 places that gun should ever be, out here or in here. Okay, if you have it out. In the ready position, you can be here doing your reload. Where you were tucked into that corner, if that person comes around the corner to grab you, grab the gun, stab you, hit you, shoot you, you have no reactionary gap whatsoever. Okay? We're going to be here. We're offline. We're still using this as cover. Now, re-engage that target. Now, re-engage. Rescue the hostage. And holster your Colt. So here's what's happening. Pulling the trigger way too hard is what it's coming down to on this precision shot. Kill sound downstairs, mate. If you look at the hits on this target, okay, multiple hits down at the bottom, you took 3 or 4 shots. We got 1 hit that's actually up here, that's probably the shot that ended up taking the hostage taker down. These hits, not only is this just really hard bone and teeth and things like that, yeah, it's going to significantly affect the target's ability to present a lethal threat, but it's not going to be that instant stop that we're looking for. It's going to be smoother on the trigger. Right. This is that balance of speed and precision. Okay, right. When we're in a realistic environment, there's going to be a lot of different ways that we can need to shoot slower in order to get the hit we have to get. As you came forward, you made an excellent shot on this target after your reload. The problem was you were in a ready position with a gun that was out of battery. Yeah. So we need to recognize that slide lock. You know, the energy of a slide going back and forth on top of a frame is very different than just the energy of it going back. And I'm sure if you stood on a range without these kinds of distractions, if you closed your eyes and just shot into a safe area with an instructor standing by or some partner standing there watching you shoot into the dirt berm, you'd be able to predict 9 times out of 10 on slide lock, because it would feel so much different. So the trick is to start recognizing that. You know, you asked me one point about should you top off your gun as you go through. Well, that's one of the really downsides to practicing that topping off all the time in a training environment, that you get less opportunity to start experiencing slide lock. So we really never want to top off. That administrative reload is something that, a tactical reload, if you want to call it that, is something you're going to do if you have the cognitive process in the middle of between 2 different critical incidents to top your gun off. That's great. It's an easy skill to do. If you have the cognitive awareness to do it, you're going to be able to do it. So we don't have to practice that to the detriment of the opportunity to practice reacting from slide lock, which is a much more critical situation, which is what you just experienced. Very quick reload, came right back, engaged that target, and then as we came forward, let's take a look here. This guy. So you presented the weapon towards him, and then kind of stopped yourself and came back. Okay, something in his hand, gun pointed at you, you're at gun school, right? You're in that hunting mode, something's going on, you've just shot 2 guys in this bar, you're gonna be keyed up, your adrenaline's up, and what's that? Okay, so good reaction. Here at Valhalla, we have a great luxury of 360-degree live fire ranges that we can actually go into and experience shooting in any direction. Not everyone has that luxury, and of course some of these skills are important to shooting in a realistic environment. You want to be able to practice them at home. For safety reasons, for administrative reasons, for reasons of financial constraint or convenience, most ranges obviously are set up so that you only shoot in one direction. And we realize that that's where most of the people watching these videos are going to be training. This drill will allow you to actually practice shooting in a 360-degree environment while not leaving a square range with one safe designated shooting area. Johnny's going to help me demonstrate by moving in a figure 8 around these barrels. Now you don't need barrels, you can put 2 scuffs on the ground, throw 2 empty boxes, ammunition, sticks, whatever you might need to do. But here inside this square range we're going to use these barrels. As Johnny moves around, I as his instructor or training partner will call a target. As he reaches this barrel, if I were to call 7, at this point, the target's actually behind him. He needs to turn around, he would draw, extend the weapon, and then if we were live at this point, he would engage the target. Return to your holster, Johnny, continue your figure 8. At this point, as he moves forward through and comes across the middle, 4. Now he has a target to his left that he needs to turn and engage and extend straight out, moving laterally the whole time relative to the target as he extends. Return to the holster, and again, continue the figure 8. Now, while you can do this with one target, you can see we've put up multiple targets that the shooter will still need to constantly assess and figure out where he is relative to the threat that you've identified. You can also do things like use colors, position, left, right, and center, or other designations to call the targets out for your training partner. Also during the drill, I recommend doing things like this. 8. Causing the student to turn and assess his shooting area and try to see if there is a target or not. So by doing this, you constantly work shoot, no shoot situations. A one loud call won't instantly mean drawing the gun. This also tends to keep everyone a little safer because we're not going to be drawing and then turning, which might cause us in certain positions in the figure 8 to draw towards our unsafe area and swing around to the targets. It's vitally important as part of any fundamental shooting in a realistic situation training doctrine that you have recognition of the target as the very first step before you draw a gun. So again, 4. As Johnny recognizes the target, he then draws his gun and presents towards it. He would not draw the gun and swing around looking for a 4. Okay, it's not a habit we want to get into when we're carrying a gun in the real world, which of course is the ultimate realistic environment. Okay, so we want to talk about drawing from a holster and the process of getting the gun out of the holster and onto the target. Of course, if we're shooting in a realistic environment, we're probably not walking around all day in the ready position. Although that position is the most expeditious for us to practice the shooting in a realistic environment under most conditions, in the real world, we're clearly going to be holding the gun down in a holster and probably concealed or in some other way. What we want to do is understand that consistency, once again, is the most important thing. Consistency in our grip, consistency in our presentation. So what we want to do is establish that as much as we can of that good grip in the holster before the gun even comes out. So we don't want to have our fingers open. We certainly don't want to have our thumb over here or our trigger finger somewhere other than just like this. Fingers wrapped around the gun, thumb on the other side of the gun with our trigger finger up against the holster so that when we come out, it's perfectly indexed on the frame. We then, once we come up high out of the holster and we're clear, want to orient the muzzle towards the threat as soon as we can. Notice that this puts us right in line with that high compressed ready. Again, consistency. We come through that high compressed ready, get our two-handed grip, extend, touch, press. And we're going to come back in, assess, see what else there is we may need to do or worry about. And if there's nothing, we're going to go back through exactly the same positions to reholster positively, and then we're going to relax. You know, all too often on a range, we see people come up out of the holster very diligently, extend, press, and then once the shooting drill is done, they kind of relax. They stand their posture up, the gun arm bends, the gun comes down to here, and we see all kinds of crazy things when the gun goes back to the holster very casually. Well, that's very dangerous. We want to make sure that we're locked in and focused on what we're doing all the time when the gun's out. Also, we want to condition ourselves so that when we get that grip, come up, extend, touch, press. We come back and assess the environment that we remember that we're still in a critical incident. We just fired a gun. And we need to be very aware of what's going on and very locked into what we might need to do next. We don't want to just automatically go into a relaxed posture. Get the gun back to the holster, and then we relax. 4. Two. 2. 4. 9. Headshot. Holster. Another one of our principles is that the longer the duration of a critical incident, the more likely the need for precision. As you can see, what happened here was 2 shots were fired, one significantly combat accurate, one off to the left of the critical area of the target we wanted to get. Mike encountered slide, stop, reload. He moved into a position behind this cover, finished his reload, and what I did to simulate that need for precision that tends to happen as the duration of a critical incident extends was call a headshot. He then took more time, balanced his speed and precision, and made a perfect headshot into the triangle on that target. Good job. Figure 8. 9. 6. 7. So again, the figure 8 drill is a great way to be able to practice shooting in a realistic environment when you only have a 90-degree flat range to practice on. We're in a realistic environment. A realistic environment can mean a lot of things. It can mean the street scene. It can mean the restaurant that you go to every week. It can mean your house. It can mean a hallway. It can mean an office setting, an apartment setting. And that's more what we're going to go through now. Outstanding. Shooting in a realistic environment means accepting a 360-degree reality. Lateral movement. Don't forget your lateral movement as you move forward. Okay. I'll give you basic movement commands. I'll tell you to go through the next door to the right, move to your left. Good. Okay, reload. If you see a threat, someone with a gun or a knife pointed at you or someone you want to protect, you need to engage that threat using all the same principles that we worked with in the square range. You respond appropriately, again, with lateral movement if the environment permits it. Outstanding. Move forward and go to your right. We're going to respond appropriately, shoot the threat until it goes down. We want to stay away from walls. We don't want to be sucked up against walls where we get jammed up and we can't get our full extensions. Fully away from corners and things like that. As we engage a threat, fully engage, come back to the ready position, assess, and then prepare to move again. Outstanding. Move forward. Reach down with your left hand, open that door. Yes, sir. So this is a very safe range. We're using frangible ammunition, non-toxic ammunition. You can shoot in any direction in here except at yourself or me, essentially. Excellent. Check the rest of that room. Move in, lateral. Good, and holster. Don't forget your lateral movement as you move forward. Okay, turn, engage the target, either come back through this doorway or move this way across the hall, but don't just stand here statically. Okay. Okay, move forward, and then go to the left. Excellent. Move forward, and past the bed, and to the left again. Excellent. Much better pace of shooting. Okay. Remember, don't move forward unless your gun's ready. We want to stop, be in the ready position, maybe move laterally, reload, and then assess. Okay. Continue to move forward until you have your weapon ready to go. We're going to go through this door and to the left. Excellent. Okay. Remember, you want to stay out of the doorway. So back here, You can still make that same shot from back here. Now get your full extension. Okay, and so you're not projecting yourself beyond the doorway as a target to somebody else or where someone can grab your gun. You can even take another half step back. And now, this way to the corner, now you even have more peripheral vision if someone were to come through this way, if someone were following you through. Okay, now you can extend, get your shot that you need to get that target, now move forward and assess. We're here inside the 360-degree house scenario area of the Valhalla Training Center to talk about use of cover. What we have is a tendency to want to get very close to something that psychologically offers us protection, even if physically an interior house wall may or may not stop bullets. Behaviorally, whether this is a brick wall or a car or a tree or this interior house wall going into a bedroom, we always want to be close to it. And that is something we have to fight in terms of being tactically efficient and getting the most out of cover, being as safe as we can and being as efficient as we can in terms of addressing that threat. What we have here as we're walking down the hall is a threat in the bedroom area of the house. Rather than run up to this wall where a lot of people would naturally go, when you draw your gun, you can't extend. You can't get into your good standard extension position. If you do, you've got to lean out and around, exposing this firearm to anyone that may be over here who might want to grab it, bump into it, run into it. Certainly it exposes your position to anyone out there in terms of shooting at you or towards you. Also, if this is a hard surface that will cause bullets to hit and come off in terms of splash or ricochet, you can get cut up or lacerated from those fragments coming off the wall. So we don't want to be anywhere out here extended past the wall, and certainly we don't want to have to come out this far and expose this much of our body to the side of the cover that might be provided by these 2x4s even inside. Where we want to be is back here to a position where we can get full extension and be in our natural weight forward, fully extended, parallel with our line of sight shooting position. This will allow us to then lean out and take the shot. Also notice that when we're here doing a reload or clearing a malfunction, or when we draw as we're still assessing a situation, we have a reactionary gap between us and that corner, so that if someone were to rush around, we could either defend or shoot if we needed to, or just back away and get that full extension. We're not here where someone can reach around and immediately grab our gun and turn it offline and affect our ability even to assess whether or not they're a threat or just a friendly person trying to get away from what we're also worried about as they come around that corner. So from back here, we now can minimize our exposure, extend, lean out, and significantly affect the threat. Assess your environment, pull the gun back to your ready position, and holster. Okay, again, we had a little bit of a tendency to charge towards that target. All right, you moved into the room. If there had been 4 other guys in here, you really wouldn't have been charging into the room under those circumstances. Deal with this threat with a lateral movement, then come in and assess as you move through. Okay, but excellent shooting. Good job. How did it feel?
It felt really good. It's just the one question I had was this. I kind of saw, or when you come into a door, is it open so you keep 2 hands, or I haven't done a lot of training with one hand shooting, so I'm not comfortable if I were to do that.
I'll tell you what, we're talking about shooting in a realistic environment today. Let me show you something. I'm going to reset this target.
Okay.
Okay, where we've got this person who's presenting the firearm. Let's go back and recreate what happened, what you saw. You're seeing the gun, right?
Yeah.
But you aren't confident in your ability to make that shot.
Because of the door.
Here's the reality. This is a realistic environment. That interior house door, a hollow core door, isn't going to stop bullets.
Yeah.
Go to your ready position.
Okay.
With the gun. All right. From your ready position, you identify a threat. Do a little lateral movement to the left, and then what I want you to do is just go ahead and engage that target right through the door.
Through the door.
Absolutely.
Okay. So ready position. I see.
You recognize.
Okay.
Lateral movement, engage. Outstanding. And as we move forward, you'll see that you engage that target just as well as you did before. Hollow core door did not stop the bullets. The round cut clean through and the target went down.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead and holster. So part of shooting in a realistic environment is understanding what is cover and what is concealment. Okay. Now, all things being equal, if you aren't 100% sure that all you have here is your bad guy, then you don't want to be doing that. You don't want to shoot blindly through walls. But in this situation where you have a gap where you can clearly identify a threat, maybe she's shooting through the door at you, all bets are off, and that interior house door is not going to stop your bullets.
I don't know. Was afraid to shoot through. I didn't know what. So.
Understood. And in most environments, that would not be an acceptable training practice. But what we're trying to do here is get you acclimated to what it would really be like to have to take a shot inside of your house or somebody else's house to defend you or someone else.
Okay.
And that's perfectly acceptable. Good job.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for watching this edition of the Second Amendment Foundation Personal Firearm Defense DVD series. Practice the tactics and training drills you've just learned at your favorite shooting range, and you're going to gain the confidence and skills you need to effectively protect yourself with your firearm. Remember to check and understand the firearm laws in your area, especially as they relate to personal protection and concealed carry. See you next time.